evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our fourth session of Cracking the Code. Cracking the Code launched last year with our partners Africa, and to give everyone this gives everyone the opportunity to get together, learn the ins and outs of e-commerce through easy, consumable discussions with thought leaders in the industry. Now, during this webinar, it may be a lot of information to consume. So if you want to rehash any of the answers or anything that Nicola has to present to us today, don't worry, there will be a recording made afterwards that you can refer to at any time. During the webinar, you're more than welcome to make use of the chat function that's located at the right-hand side of your screen, and you can send through any comments you have or interact during the webinar. That would be amazing. And yeah, joining me on stage this evening is Danica from Africa, who's going to tell us a little bit more about our speaker. But just before she does that, please excuse me, I do have a bit of load shedding. As you can see, I'm a little bit in the dark, and it may come on at 6:30, but that may not cause any interruptions, but just a heads up. Off to you, Danica.
Cool, thank you, Crystal. So our guest for today is somebody who I actually really love having on board with Africa. So our guest today is Nicola Kok. So she is the founder of Simply Granola. So Simply Granola is the online store that has taken the South African health industry by storm. Every time I open my Instagram account, they are all over it, and I love it. So simple yet sumptuous, healthy and wholesome, Simply Granola was created in 2016 by Nicola. We are going to chat to her today about the ins and outs of the business, the highs and the lows, and maybe she can share some really cool tips. Hi, Nicola. How are you?
Exciting.
Hi, guys. Great. It's so lovely to be here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time. And I know in the evening it's always a bit of a mad rush with the kids, so thank you very much for joining us today.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, cool. Instead of doing tell us a bit about yourself, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. These are really going to be quite fun. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. What is your favorite food?
Lasagna.
What word do you hate hearing?
In Afrikaans, it's so bad, guys. Pedophile.
Pedophile.
What is your favorite breakfast?
I feel like I should say granola, but guys, I've eaten so much granola in my life. Probably a protein smoothie. Very boring.
Good call. What is the best non-curse word, one-word insult?
Wow.
No, guys, I only know 4-letter ones. I don't have an answer to
Good call. Good call. Let's keep it PG. What is a good spy code name for you?
No. I don't know.
You can also say skip.
Okay, skip.
Okay. What is your hidden talent?
I'm very resourceful.
Good to know. If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Ooh, that's an easy one. I think defying modern day societal norms, like things we think we should do, but we shouldn't do, don't have to
That's a
do.
good one.
I think you should write that one.
Yeah.
What is your last Google search? What non-existent job do you wish existed?
Can I tell you about the existing ones that I want to do?
Yes, you can.
Okay, no. Okay. I would love to have an agency that can multiply you, and then you can be super efficient versions of yourself in multiple industries. I always wish I could be many things, There's about 5 jobs I can tell you about right now that I'd love to do. That's what I want.
That is awesome. What quote resonates with you?
Well, I should have gotten a heads up on that one. I'll tell you at the end.
Okay, that's perfect. What makes you hopeful?
The way that I get to raise my son.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And then the last one, also quite a deep one, but what is a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
Patience.
Ooh.
Did your son teach you that?
No, building a house taught me that. My son is teaching me that still daily.
Amazing. It's amazing
Okay,
the lessons we
cool.
learn through the different things we experience in life.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you,
Cool.
Nicola.
Yeah,
That was
I
actually
think
really cool. I feel like I know a lot about you now.
that's really awesome actually. Some decent answers there. Well done.
Cool.
I think let's kick off the session. And let's just get into Simply Granola and where you came from and teach us a little bit about what you've gone through to get to where you are today, a beautiful, successful business that so many people rave about. And to start that off, it says, having started out in a corporate environment, because this is where you came from, what encouraged you to quit and launch your business? And how did your life change with this move?
So, I grew up Afrikaans in a typical Dutch reformed Afrikaans environment, and to that I'm entirely grateful. But I think what I've learned over the years is that there's quite a expectation, of what life should look like. You go to school and you go to university or college if you've got the opportunity, and then you get a job. And when I was working at Capitec, I looked at women, that went before me. And I had a mother who was at home with us for the most part. And even though I wasn't a mother at the time, I knew that I'm investing, a lot of time into a career that was doing really, really well at the time. But I knew that mothering to me would not work in a setting like that. And I looked at what women ahead of me was giving up in order for that career. And I realized that just because, I've gotten 3 degrees doesn't mean you have to apply it in that setting necessarily. I think that's the one big component. And the second part maybe, and I'm not saying corporate is bad. I mean, this was 10 years ago. I think a lot of it has changed significantly over the years. But I didn't like the person who I was becoming. Maybe I was also very young, too immature. The role and the sort of the structure that I was working in changed dramatically at the time, and I escalated quite fast. And maybe I was not ready for that. But I didn't like the person that I was becoming and the person that I would be at home. And I almost only had capacity for myself and my needs. And I didn't really have the capacity to serve outside of myself and to only make sure that I was okay by myself. So then I quit. And I think at the time people thought I was mad. I bought donuts. I went home and I told Dries, that's it. And booked a trip to Zanzibar. And the following morning, I was sitting on a beach contemplating my next move. I think typical Nicola fashion. I didn't waste more time. Sitting in a career that I don't necessarily have the answer to, but I do know that it's not something I can actively buy in anymore and invest in anymore if I can't see on the long term how this is something that would be sustainable for me if I do want to start, and I'm fortunate enough to start my own family. And I think from a life-changing point of view, the biggest thing was probably freedom. And to slowly and organically find it. Well, Simply Granola, and I know we'll get into that now, but Simply Granola had a very, very organic start, and it's something that I've really enjoyed to discover over the last 6 years. What I thought it would be to what it has become. But the biggest change for me going from corporate to what is Simply Granola today was probably, I think, becoming a better version of me through it all, and being a better person to the people in my life. And I mean, my family and especially my friends, I always say I'm extremely privileged to have a very small but amazing tribe of girls in my life. And the fact that I'm able to show up for people in my life is something that I highly value. And it's something that you don't necessarily get to do when you're stuck in an 8 to 5, or not in the sense that you would like to, simply because you are confined, by your job. So I think all in all, the move from corporate just made me a happier person.
Amazing.
That's awesome. That is amazing. So on that note, tell us what inspired Simply Granola.
So Simply Granola really is nestled in a recipe that I grew up with. I always say it's like the polony in my house. What is today known, really guys, what is today known as the classic is a version, it's an adapted version of what my mom made for me since I was a little girl. So when I grew up, we all had the recipe, and I simply changed it to be free of refined sugars. I changed some of the inclusions to what we wanted to eat. And that's sort of where it started. And I was sitting at my office desk and somebody asked me, what do you eat? And I said, pop. And they're like, oh, well, I want some of that. So I started baking the classic at the time and selling it in like cellophane packets. And then another friend of mine said, oh, but she wants something like cocoa, chocolatey. And that's through a roundabout way how my cocoa today came to be. And peanut butter lover was a random invention in the kitchen one weekend. And then I met Marie's from Shears Visual, and I thought, it'll probably be cool to have like a nice package. I like pretty things. Everybody likes pretty things. So we took probably about a year. It was very slow, sort of as and when we got the time. We did the branding, and then just we were going away for the weekend, and then she tagged me in a post, and then Simply Granola was live. It really never had an intentional business plan. I didn't have an online store. I had nothing. And then I sort of just rolled with it. So that's sort of the backstory of how it started. It is really something that's been part of who I've been for years. But I think today, also a big reason, not a big reason, but the ethos behind Simply Granola has always been, I always like to say it's a box where the front is as honest as the back. It is simply granola. I like to believe that when you turn a box around, you can pronounce every ingredient. And we go to great lengths, and we take great effort to source quality ingredients. And we always say we use a conscious selection of good for you ingredients.
That's incredible.
And Simply Granola has always had intent and consciousness at the core of it, where we get the highest quality ingredients. We work with local partners, local farmers. We know where our ingredients come from. We look at the spec sheets. You don't just buy anything off the shelf, because it's not like comparing apples with apples. And to that extent, I think what I love about what we do is I think the consumer that understands that appreciates that. And it is something that we will never give up. It's not a compromise that I'm willing to make, just to put a cheaper box on the shelf. I know we're not the most affordable box on the shelf, but I think if you pick up an average box in a leading retailer and it says only 1 teaspoon of sugar per serving, but the serving is a tablespoon size, you should be able to see that there's a very big difference, between that box and, that's the kind of thing that we produce.
Sure. That is really amazing. I think, especially in a world where every single food you pick up is so processed to the point that it's almost plastic, I think it's very valuable. It's very valuable to hear that your ingredients are actually like straight from the crop.
There's a rising awareness, I think, also in the market for that. Maybe we were a little before our time when we started, but I think today, it's something that's definitely appreciated and valued, and people are willing to consume less in order to consume better.
100%.
Exactly, and especially with the focus, a lot of families, and you don't exactly want to give your kids something that's super processed and super sugary.
Yeah.
It's good enough for the whole family.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. And you said, so basically you got tagged on a post and Simply Granola was born. What did you do to get started from there? Was it a slow pace, or did you go, okay, well, it's live, I'm just going to go into it now? What was your strategy from there?
No, I didn't have one. So I had this grand idea, guys, that I'm going to be, it's going to be this super exclusive gig. I'm going to be like, oh, there's 20 packets up for grabs this week, first come, first serve. And then I think very typical to human nature, you get your sort of first taste of success and everybody orders and you don't have stock. And I'm like, oh, but I'll bake some more. yeah, so I started making some more. But I think the key thing that was very integral to the success of Simply Granola from the very, very beginning is aesthetics. You know, people purchase with their eyes. Back then, we didn't have a window. We didn't even have like a liner bag in the thing. People would purchase it in October or November when we launch and say they want to give it for Christmas. I'm like, dude, this thing has no shelf life. Like, you need to eat it now. You shouldn't like buy again Christmas time. I lost my train of thought. But no, okay. So then people started purchasing, and within the first 6 months of launching, because we had a very, I think a very specific aesthetic, but just a pleasing to the eye aesthetic, you know. People would buy the packet simply because they liked what it looked like. And then poetry stores, you know, they've been expanding their homeware offering, I mean, for ages now. And then they did a nationwide placement, within the first 6 months of launching. And I think that really helped to get the brand like quite out there, and get recognition for the brand from the early days. And that was also sort of, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but how we started Simply Honey. I mean, we didn't even have Shopify. We had a Squarespace one-pager landing page with a manual booking form, and you clicked what you wanted, and then I got an email to say I wanted stuff. And I think from there, definitely slow pace, definitely organic. I'm a very, very big believer that, you know, any business has seasons. We're in a terrible season right now. But I've also learned over the last 6 years that after every down, there's always an up. So now when we've got a bad season, we rest, because I know there will be a season where we will work our asses off. So from the very slow, organic, blue sky days where I will be baking 20 packets a week, it was a journey. And then more tools became available. You know, people were going onto Shopify. So we went onto Shopify, found UAfrica, went onto UAfrica. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's really, really cool. So, I mean, like starting out slow and kind of being thrown into it with this post, what was the hardest part about that, like, slow growth process? Was there anything specific, like a really big hurdle that you had to overcome, or what was hard?
Many things. You know, for 5 out of the 6 years, we bootstrapped all the way. Make money, spend money, make money, spend money. And to a degree, and I actually saw the change in our 6th year, you know, when we got funding in, and how fast that elevated the business and fast-tracked the growth. It was exceptional. But I think bootstrapping was quite tough. You know, you need to fund print runs, and a print run is, okay, where do you find 100K? But it is also maybe something I think that forces any entrepreneur to grow at a pace that is maybe comfortable and achievable. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know at the point when we got funding in, I was definitely at a place where I knew exactly what I wanted to do with the money, how to spend it best, how to get the most results from that. And I was very fortunate enough to get an amazing partner on board. Okay, so bootstrapping. The other super tough thing that I didn't really think was that tough at the time was to actually also understand and know what you are offering. You know, now you are a granola company, great. Who am I selling to? Am I only doing online? Am I selling to stores? What are my key selling points? You know, you aren't necessarily able to define these things so clearly and so accurately at the beginning. So when you stand at a market and people are like, oh, okay, cool, granola, why is it so different? You know, you're not necessarily able to tell them why it is that great. Also because I didn't have like a business plan and that very formalized start to the business. So we took about the first 3 years, I feel like we just figured out, you know, what the hell am I doing? What is it exactly what I'm offering? I want to tell one story. So in my 2016, 2017, so SARTA is CEDA is a small enterprise development agency. It's a government-funded agency, and they provide funding to SMEs, for like growth opportunities. So we went to SARTA, which is this massive wholesale trade show in Joburg, and basically only store owners attend, and then they see, what you've got to offer, and they do wholesale placements. So obviously, since I like pretty things, my stall was a pretty stall. But now I've got like 5 brown bags with circles, very cute, but you can't read what is going on there. You can't see that it's different flavors. And I had like this beautiful white thing, and I had this beautiful desk with gold foiling and blah, blah, blah. And then on the back of the wall, I had these wooden knobs that was just there for aesthetic purposes. And everybody thought that I'm a bloody interior design stand. And everybody wanted to know, do I sell these knobs? It was like the year of the wooden knob. So eventually at the end of the show, I sold the damn knobs. And I was like, okay, cool. This was an epic fail. Luckily, I was funded to go there. Otherwise, I would have, Anyway, so I made a commitment to myself that I will do 2 of these shows. There's one in April and one in December. Apparently, the December one is better. So after this terrible show, I realized nobody has a bloody clue, what I'm selling, what I'm on about, that there's actually 5 different products on the shelf. And it was a major learning curve for me to understand the messaging that you have to have on stand, the messaging that you have to have on your boxes, the fact that nobody can see the product, that they can't read the fonts that I'm using. So in between the 2 shows, we actually rebranded to the boxes that everybody knows today, because those craft bags were beautiful, but I mean, they weren't serving the business at all. So anyway, figuring out how to sell what you want to sell was definitely a major thing for me. And I think the other thing is making mistakes and getting comfortable with making mistakes. I feel like, we did production ourselves from day one. I worked out of my kitchen. When we moved into our new place, I got a 900 centimeter oven, and I had pans folded, so you can get like 4 pans into the oven at a time. And then it's that uncomfortable position, where you're kind of too small for a facility. I was baking 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. every Saturday for a year because I refused to bake the week. I feel like when you bring negative energy to the kitchen, something bad is definitely bound to happen. So we chatted and we decided, okay, for a year, this is what we're going to do, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. every Saturday. And then I've got enough stock for the week, whatever. And then it became the point where I can't afford a production facility, but I need bigger space, and I need bigger ovens. And then I got the opportunity to lease oven downtime from a bakery in Stellenbosch. So they would take the pastries out at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then the ovens would stand still while they prepared the baking for the next night. So, and my friend told me, she said, I overheard this conversation. Don't you just want to phone the gun? I said, no, man, I don't know. Like, what would I say? I don't know if I'm big enough, whatever. Biggest leap of faith. Best thing I ever did at the time. My next biggest mistake was not to have a production agreement in place. It was like sort of a gentleman's agreement. And we carried on like that for a number of years. So I would go in baking, and then I became pregnant, and then they started baking for me. I taught the girls at the bakery how to do it. And then one glorious Thursday morning, I got an email to say, oh, sorry, so we're not producing your lines anymore. They've been pulled out of the kitchen effective immediately. So I'm like, what do you mean effective immediately? I've got a laptop and a desk. What am I supposed to sell? So terrible. All my stock, all my equipment, everything was on their premises. So I moved everything into my garage. And then I bargained to get like a quarter ton of stock just to last me for a couple of months. And I don't have a production agreement with my producer today. Again, I still really like to believe in the goodness of people. But anyway, and that was a major thing for me. I was like, how am I actually, like, I've got nothing. Okay, I've got one very other bad story too. But anyway, that propelled us, into a space where we had to go find a new production partner, because I knew I don't want to do production. That is not where my heart lies. That is not where my passion lies. I feel I've slung enough pans, to last me a lifetime. And then we found a new production partner, but they were massive, man. The quantities, the minimum order quantities that they wanted to put into an oven per recipe was what we would sell in a month in total. Wow. So I was like, sure. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Anyway, that turned out to be a wonderful partner, and they still produce for us till today. But yeah, it's like small mistakes like these, not having a production agreement in place, like a 30-day heads up would have been nice, Yeah. I don't know. Put an oven in my garage. I'm not sure. But also these kind of things make you resilient, and you learn to think on your feet, and you learn to, I don't know, just roll with the punches, and it makes you stronger. There's definitely, every time you think this is the worst thing that could have happened, something bad, definitely badder will come along. Yeah.
That's incredible. But I think every business goes through things that they don't expect, and you live and you learn. It's day by day.
Yeah.
You learn new things and you take it in your stride and you become better and better. And that's where you are today. You're better than you were 2 years ago. You're better than you were 6 years ago. You just keep on getting better. You use your tough situations and you use it for the best.
And we've got a backup oven.
Good
Worst
call.
case.
Go. Plan B. Awesome. And then you did touch on it slightly just now, is that your product range went from simply granola and then it extended. What was your thinking behind the product extension?
So again, that was I feel like I've always wondered about whether the fact that Simply Granola is such a personal brand is a good thing or a bad thing. I look at other brands like Good Leaf, for example. I don't know who's behind Good Leaf. I don't know if there's a face on the about page. And then often I think it must be so nice to not have to put your face on there. But the way that Simply Granola has grown, and like our product offering, for example, that was such an organic extension also of things I've wanted and have seen and thought, okay, this can be an easy match to what we're currently offering. So we started with granola, and still till today, we only bake with raw honey. And when Poetry did the placement, they wanted something alongside the granola. So we did the honey for them. And then we just started using imported jars. So to what they look today. It's a beautiful gift. We actually sell more of them in the gifting space than online sometimes. So since we have a ton of honey on site, we just decant and sell that. And then in COVID, oh my word, guys, COVID was, I always feel not bad because, but yeah, COVID was exceptional for our business. I honestly thought it was going to be, and I'm getting back to the product range, but I thought it was going to be a 3-week holiday and I'm just going to sit at home. And I thought the bakery is closed, but then they had an essential services, license certificate? I can't remember what they call that. And I was chatting to the production manager and I said, oh yeah, so we're not baking for 3 weeks. He's like, what do you mean we're not baking? We're baking bread. Of course we're baking. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Got my essential services certificate thing. And then the third day of level 5 lockdown, I was like, okay, guys, I'm online. And I think we made like 3 months worth of trade over that weekend, when everybody is sitting at home. And I think because we are, speaking to a higher LSM, or it is a more expensive product, a lot of people were sitting at home with additional income that is not being spent. And now you've got access to something that you maybe would have been a luxury purchase before. So anyway, then I was like, okay, cool, this is happening. But then while we were selling, I thought, why not fill the cart with additional items for people that are maybe not trading or don't have a very strong online presence? So while you're paying for shipping, you might just as well add local goods from other suppliers. So we had like oat milk and rusks and cookies and blah, blah, blah. And while we were adding that offering, my coffee supplier contacted me and I didn't understand what they were going on about. I thought, okay, cool, coffee. But I didn't like their packaging. Okay. So I was like, no, I'm not so sure. This doesn't look very Simply Granola to me. And then like a week later, I read the email again and I saw, oh, wait, they do Nespresso capsuling. They've got a capsuling facility here in Cape Town and it was ridiculously affordable. So I did some quick math and I was like, okay, this exercise is going to be like maybe 20K. Okay. I have to do 5,000 capsules. And I asked the guy, can I use the die line for his, like the Nespresso shaped sleeve? And he's like, sure, no problem. Very easy, quick design situation. And then we went live and I thought, worst case scenario, I live in an estate. I'll just sling these pods to the people living around me if nobody wants to buy them. Anyway, long story short, the first 5,000 sold out in the first week. So I was like, okay, cool. This is really nice. And then we added a second intensity and we added the decaf. And then one day while I was visiting them, he said to me, smell this. And I thought I'm smelling coffee beans. And then I realized it's chocolate coated coffee beans. And I was like, oh my word, this will be such an amazing addition. And then I made, so that's how Simply Sweet came to be. That was dark chocolate. And then eventually I found another guy that can do milk chocolate because I don't really like dark chocolate. So granola, honey, coffee, sweets. And we still kept like peripheral items, cart fillers, not major profit drivers, but like the okia that we offer, the meatball stuff that I think is just extremely functional. If you are committed to a conscious effort in your nutrition and what you select, then getting a on-the-go container. So that's why we offer the meatball things. Anyway, and then last year with a high protein, I don't actually think I ever expected it to be the success that it was. Okay, can we please I actually haven't really told this story to many people. I think like my inner circle, the severity of the situation. Okay, so the development of the high protein granola was extremely tough. Like the liquid and the dry components, if you add too much liquid, it almost bakes. So anyway, finally we get the kitchen trial right, and now we take it to the factory, and they've got these. So like a KitchenAid, and then you get like industrial grade KitchenAids, and it's like a 40-liter thing. Anyway, so my factory, they don't have mixers with pedals in, okay? They've got like what I would like to call a cement mixer. It's just these massive circular mixers mounted onto a wall, and there's nothing that like agitates the batch. So anyway, we go to factory trial, from kitchen trial, bit of a mess, and then I figured out, okay, wait, we can fix this, because when you now chuck in like 20 kgs of honey with like 50 kgs of grains, it just became like one big ball, and it was a sticky mess, whatever. So I thought, oh my word, this is going to be ridiculous. And then we've sort of figured it out, but it was still a smaller batch than what we would do like full production runs at, because also whey protein is extremely expensive. So we try to keep like the development costs a little bit low. Anyway, guys, we go to the first production run. Now I said to Yana, so Yana has become a member of my team. She's on leave for some reason. I actually do not understand why I said yes 2 weeks before the biggest launch of our lives. She's on leave. I'm doing the production run, and it is like a horrendous fail. Like that was the single most biggest fail of my entire career as the owner of Simply Granola.
I know.
So in goes like thousands of rands of ingredients, and out comes like a Mother Earth sticky ball, and there's absolutely like no way to rectify it. The launch is in a week, by the way, and we've had this build up to this product now for months. Okay, so get like the guys to bring these tables. We take the sticky balls out, we try to flatten it on trays, try and work the mixture out, chuck it into the oven. I've got no hope in hell for this to actually be a success. First batches come out. I'm like, okay, maybe. Tried something different with let's say the vanilla batch, put it in, comes out, okay, a little bit better. Then they added the chocolate into the batches, because it has the chocolate inside. One batch was sweating on the table, so not great. Like 2-3 days later, the stock arrives at my office, and I open it and I taste it, and I'm like, actually, I cannot sell this. So obviously I have our kitchen trials and what I know it's supposed to taste like, and this tastes like old and stale, and it's sweated, and it's a mess. Now I'm going on leave a week before the launch.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, sitting here, opening a 5 kg bag. And I thought, okay, but wait, now what if I take the chocolate out? Because I can't chuck it back into the oven. Everything will melt. No, first I actually did chuck it all back into the oven, and everything melted. I was like, okay, wait, there's chocolate in. I need to take the chocolate out. So now I'm standing here with trays, picking out all the chocolate buttons one by one, sticking the thing back into the oven. Came out perfect. You would never know. It actually just needed longer time in the oven, and it needed more time to breathe once it's cooled down. So here I'm sending Yana on her leave all 1,000 messages of how you're going to rectify all the stock that we have to launch with, one 5 kg bag at a time. Listen, this girl is a gem. You do not understand. So while I was on leave, they were picking out chocolate buttons, putting the mixtures back into the oven, refresh it, put the chocolate back in, package it. Okay. So now it's launch day. Because the factory trial or the production run was an epic fail, we now have probably like a quarter of the stock that we thought we'd launch with. I've got like one 4-pan oven here. It's a test kitchen. Cool. So it's launch day. We had a pre-launch like an hour before the site went live. I woke my husband up and I said to him, dude, you've got to come check this out. I think it's like the lotto exploded. I think we maybe had 30K worth of stock. I think we made like 120K in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, cool, but this is a problem I can fix because I've got an oven and I've got ingredients. It's maybe going to take me a little bit longer. Okay. Then my puffer ran out of a puffing machine. I could find no grains. Chocolate was not an issue. We were dispatching an entire day for all the orders that went out, like that were placed from 6 to 6:15 on the first day. We couldn't, like, I never ever knew the response to that would be that grand. So then I phoned my kitchen guy. I'm like, this 4-pan oven needs to become a 14-pan oven, and it actually has to happen today because I've got orders streaming out of my ears and I do not know what to do with them.
Oh, that is incredible. That is such an incredible response.
But it was the single most worst moment of my life. I can promise you. I don't think I've stressed. So then we went into crisis mode of trying to find a puffer. Eventually found this remote guy in Durban. They also puff grains, great. Then the protein prices went up with 80% about 1 month after the launch. We had to put up the prices. Anyway, that's high protein for you in a nutshell. The end.
That is incredible. It's amazing how you took something that, as you say, it's your second most horrible moments in building this business, and it actually pushed your business to become better and more successful. That's actually incredible. A bad moment that made the business better.
Yeah, it's been the single best thing I think that has happened to this business, actually.
That is incredible. And Danica, you back? Do you want to?
Yeah, sorry about that. My cell phone battery that's running with the mobile data is just not working today. Of course, it has to happen during a webinar. Anyway, so you mentioned earlier that freedom was a really great part about starting Simply Granola, and you felt happier, leaving that corporate world. And I know what that feels like. Moving from corporate into a different environment is incredible. What has been the best part besides that about starting and owning your own business?
Okay, freedom. But like I can't remember if I touched on this earlier, but I know I mentioned, defying sort of societal norms and what the world expects you to be. And with a food product, I think the expectation has always been, you've got something and now it needs to reach a retail shelf. And I think alongside freedom also is the responsibility to really actively look, at the space that you're operating in, and to ask really hard questions about that. So I think for the first 3-4 years, we were sort of all over the place. Then I got to make the decision, actually, if I just sell direct to the customer, you work half as hard, you make twice as much profits. And we just simply said, we are not pursuing the retail shelf anymore. And it was a scary thing because everybody is DMing you like, where can I find it? I'm in C Point. And I'm like, no way, it's not in C Point. There's a discount code and it's online. So, and we definitely got some flack for it, but the narrative around that has also changed. I mean, you look at clothing brands, they're not in stores, they're just online. Why can't a food company not just be, online? And the same thing applies, I think, to my team. So they know that when we work exceptionally hard, and I expect an exceptional amount of dedication. But when there's no work, we don't work. We don't sit and watch the clock tick. So on our office door, it says like we're here maybe Monday to Thursday, definitely not here on a Friday. And we don't. We've got it's a company policy. We've got a 4-day work week. Some of them start at 8, some of us start at 9, some of us leave at 2, some of us leave at 4. But that's just not something that I buy into, this culture that has to look like everybody else's culture. And I encourage the girls, to have an open and an active mind. And I hope that when somebody moves on from my company, that they will be able to find and value the kind of lifestyle that you get to build. Yeah, sure. I think that my salaries that we pay is definitely not the highest out there. But I think what we offer, and that is something that I value, and that's why I put such a high emphasis on it, that money is not everything that you want in this life. I can't buy time with my son. I can't buy time for myself. So what does a massive salary help you if you're tied into a desk chair, but all you want to do is be running in the mountains, or it's a glorious day outside, and actually, I would just like to go for a walk by the beach. Who says that you can't do that? So yes, freedom, and it's not just the freedom to do nothing, but it's the freedom to decide and to shape your days, and that is something that I am extremely passionate about. I think the other thing that excites me a lot about this space is, and obviously that comes with time, but is to sort of plow back into the SME space, and to be able to help, especially I'm passionate about female entrepreneurs, and to assist and to help and to grow. And there's been many girls, that I've walked a path with and been able to assist and guide and offer advice. And I had Lexi from Mame Confections, and she was an exceptional mentor to me in the beginning years. And I think also maybe Cape Town specifically, maybe it's not the same out there, but there's such an amazing community and culture here where there's sun for everybody. There's advice freely available. You simply have to ask. So for me to be able to put back from where we've come from and make sure that another girl doesn't pay the same school fees twice, that is something that I feel really privileged to be able to do.
That is amazing.
You sound very, very passionate in what you do, and I can hear it when you tell your story from the beginning to the end, how it just started out of something like just your porridge. It was just your breakfast, and it's become something that you treasure so much now. Do you think that your passion was a very important component to what it's become today?
I think passion will make life easier for anybody starting a business. If there's a degree of buy-in into what you're doing and what you're selling and what you're baking and what you're making, I always say I can't sell what I don't like. I will never bake a banting granola because it's simply something that I don't like and I don't want to eat and I don't want to make. It's not something I'm passionate about. And I can honestly say that, there's been a ton of shitty days. I mean, hell. But I can honestly say that there has never been a day that I have not wanted to walk into my office. In fact, it's like a retreat in here for me. Despite the difficult times, despite the really, I don't know what the answer is. Where's the textbook for this kind of scenarios? I've never, for the last 6 years, not wanted to go to the office and not want to, put on my big old panties and figure out, how we're gonna do this. And I think if you've got passion at the back end of that, it makes days like that easier. And I think passion for something also gives you the grace, to come into the office on a day that you maybe don't feel like dealing with a problem. You don't mind the business, but you don't really feel like the problem. And it also gives you grace to be like, okay, you know what, I'm passionate about what I'm doing, but this is also what I choose to do. So I choose to walk out of the door and actually just not be passionate about this right now and come back tomorrow and be super passionate about it, again. But to both be able to be passionate and into what you're doing, I think is a privilege.
That is really a privilege, but it's also inspiring. Like, your passion inspires me. Which doesn't happen a lot. So with the Simply Granola brand, it's just grown and grown. I mean, when you tell us these stories about like how quickly things have sold, it's crazy. And I feel like every time I open my Instagram, like I see Simply Granola, which is really, really cool. How do you ensure that the brand keeps growing? Do you actively focus on like digital marketing, or what is your strategy around that?
So I think there is probably 4 things that I can chat around in terms of growing and expanding on a continuous basis. The first one would obviously be product extension and product development. We didn't do this in previous years, and we went with organic development and organic additions to the line. But now we do take a very active approach in the beginning of each year, and we plan sort of the ideas of what we want to roll out. And that really helps us to drive growth and drive expansion deliberately. And Jana, that is my right left hand and half my brain, I promise you. She will sit and she will diarize this and she will allocate months to certain products, and we will work it back. In the beginning of the year, we probably took 2 weeks. And we to the day worked it back, what are we launching? What dates are we launching? When do we need to finish design? When does development need to be done? When does it need to be in for print? When are we shooting? When are we launching? Blah, 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 blah. So now that approach has definitely changed. But I think your consumer always wants something new. If they have bought all 5 flavors, what is going to keep them coming back, except for the fact that they really love the granola? I think an additional offering and always increasing your cart size will add to your success over time as well. That would be definitely the one thing, and an active strategy that we've started implementing from like last year to this year. I think the other biggest thing, and it's something I talk about when I talk to other female owners in the SME space, is knowing your business. I do like analytics, and with Shopify there's an app called Better Reports, and it's it is probably a little bit expensive. I think it's maybe $20 a month, $30 a month, but it gives you invaluable insights into your platform. Like, okay, there's some things that Shopify will tell you, but like, how many orders are you doing? What are your top delivering product lines? What is your returning customer rate? Where are your customers coming from? What is your average cart size? What is your drop-off rate? Like, we started tracking key measurables. And if you don't know where your money is coming from, and if you don't know what your key metrics are, like, how can you actually then chase success and chase growth? So we've got very clear ideas of what we want the average cart size to be. Like, for example, before High Protein launched, we had a returning customer rate every month of around 60%. And that is, again, to me, an amazing testimony of, the Simply Granola brand possibly becoming a home brand over time. You love Cocoa, your kids love Cocoa, and you come back and you purchase that. And then with High Protein, we saw an influx of new customers. So the returning customer rate dropped to, let's say, I think it was around 25%. So we've been consistently working at building it up. But if you don't know what your returning customer rate is, how do you know who you're speaking to? Are you speaking to new people, speaking to old people? How are you directing your messaging at them? Because at the moment now, we also know that there's 2 clear, distinct differences or distinct customer bases when it comes to Simply Granola. There's like the OG customers, and they buy everything and all of it and sort of chop and change their carts, and they come back every month. And then we have like this new young girl that only wants High Protein, and she will never buy the other stuff. So you have to tailor your marketing to both of those. And also to ensure my OG line doesn't die over time, which is a primary concern sometimes for me. Anyway, so I am a firm believer in knowing your business, knowing what's going on, tracking things, and setting goals around those. The other thing is you need to spend money to make money, even if it's scary, even if you don't have it, find it, borrow it, beg it, spend it. You will not be sorry. I think, and I'm not, what's the penny wise, pound foolish, whatever. We're not liberal with money at all. I think we run an extremely tight ship. But to be counting your pennies all the time and to be allocating like every paper that you print to the direct costs of a product, it will just make you despondent, over time. I think to sort of step away and become comfortable with taking financial risks, not just a life risk and starting a business risk and chasing the dream risk. Financial risks are a very big part and parcel of this. And it's something I often see, people are not comfortable with pushing themselves, I think, in that. And I'll add some more about whatever at the end. I'll get to that. And then I think I like to believe that one of the things that has really attributed to, again, our returning customer rate and our then direct success rate and growth rate has been exceptional customer services. So if you DM me at 10 o'clock, I will probably reply, maybe at 3 a.m., but I will. And we try to give the best and the fastest service at all times. And it's something that is prioritized in the office, and that is like a non-negotiable for me. The customer is most probably always right, even if you're wrong, and we will attend to you and look after you as fast as possible as we can. And I think it's something that has served us extremely well over time.
Yeah, customer engagement and keeping up a presence with them, I think is also one of the most important things. So to say that you prioritize that, I think is definitely working in your favor for your business, to show your customers that you are there and you will get back to them. Yeah. Awesome. And so you were chatting a little bit about what your day-to-day life is like, and the fact that you are very liberal with time with both your employees and with yourself. It gives you free time when you work for yourself. But running a business is not easy, and running a business also requires a hell of a lot of you. So how do you find that work-life balance, especially with being a mom?
So I once read that whether you are a mom that needs to do a 8-hour stint in an office, or whether you're a mom that needs to do 25 5-minute stints of work in between your day, they are equally tough. And the balance is definitely, it was very tough for me in the beginning, but I think there's maybe two things. The one, and it's something that I've really had to work hard on, but is to be present and fast and efficient when I am at work, and to actively try and remove like the domestic situation out of it, and to remind myself silly things like, I've got a nanny at home, she's great, she raised my son, she's as good as me, if not better. Or he's got a dad, they are perfectly capable, and he's got an exceptional dad that can also look after him. I'm not the only person in my son's life that is the sole solution to everything that he needs. And that is also like a narrative you kind of have to change. And it's something that I've definitely worked hard at. And then on the flip side, when you go home, because your business is also your baby, and you will be able to work on this thing for 24/7 for the rest of your life, to actually be able to switch off and to be like, okay, you know what? The standards that I set, the goals that I chase, the things that I want out of this business is only set by me. It can be as fast, as slow, as big, as small as I want it to be. And being an overachiever of nature, that is extremely tough for me, to go home and say, okay, laptop closed. I won't be thinking about what I want to be doing tomorrow. And that is probably harder for me to do than to come to work and be like, okay, my son is sorted. But it's definitely something that I've worked on, and also getting a team on board has allowed me to do that more, because now the wheels actually do keep churning, when I am at home. And then there was something else I did make a note of. I think we need to speak about this. It is really also okay to be a mother who does not want to be with a kid 24/7. When I left Capitec, my husband and I had a massive fight about this one day, where he said, when you left Capitec, you said it's because you want to be XYZ, and because mothering needs to look like ABC, and this is what you envision. But since you've started your business, you've worked harder, longer, more at it than you ever worked at Capitec. And there was a stark realization that I thought I would be the mother that my mother would be. Someone who's present in the afternoons and is always there. And it's something that I highly valued. But when I got my son, I was like, oh, no, thank you. I don't want to be here in the afternoon. This is terrible for me to mother 24/7. So I think the balance has been made easier in me also realizing that mothering is not what I expected it to be, and that it doesn't look the way that I thought it would look, and to have grace with myself.
It doesn't need to look like that.
It doesn't need to look like that.
Yeah.
I'm reading this book by Glennon Doyle, and she says that, the biggest compliment a mother can get is not to be selfless. That's absolute nonsense. And to be a mother does not mean to be a martyr, like at all. No. So yeah, I think changing the way we think about that, definitely helps with the balance. But my team also makes that significantly easier for me. Like I cannot praise them enough for that.
I'm actually really glad that you did mention that, because I was talking to my manager the other day, and we actually had this conversation saying, we both also come from households where our moms were at home, and it was amazing growing up where your mom can, she's around all the time, and when you're sick, she's there and whatever. But I'm not a mom yet, but I'm going, if I had to be with my child 24/7, and I think it's really important is that is okay, and that is your mothering and my mothering, and the next person's mothering does not need to look the same, and that is a really, really good thing to know, and it's a good thing to kind of be okay with. I think we all
Yeah, I'm an advocate of that.
Really. I'm really glad you did me. So I'm going to change the topic a little bit. When I was on your website, so I love your website, just by the way. I saw that you have a bit of a slogan, if we can call it that. I'm totally going to mispronounce it, but it's Bon Vivant.
Yeah,
So
Bon Vivant.
what does this mean? Why is it important for business? Where is it from? Tell us.
So, bon vivant was a term that I read in a magazine or something, but years ago. And I'm extremely fond of reading, and I read a ton. And when I read phrases or hear words, I often write it down. So bon vivant has been something that I've had written down for years. And then when we started Simply Granola, I wanted a tagline, and I thought of that, and I thought, okay, well, let's make it for the bon vivant heart. But anyway, so a bon vivant is an enjoyer. I'm going to read it to you so I don't get it wrong. An enjoyer of a sociable and a sumptuous lifestyle. It's somebody who is elegantly easygoing with a discerning love for exquisite food, drink, and company. And it's someone who simply chooses to live well.
Oh, I love that.
You know, I should speak about it more often, actually. Wait, I think you're on mute there. Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, you are.
Mute button. I was saying that
is brilliant.
It's a beautiful line.
Yeah, and I've also kind of liked that I haven't found it in. It's not a term that I see or hear often, and it's something. Yeah, it's quite precious to me.
So in terms
very cool.
In terms of brand awareness, so we obviously see your brand everywhere. Your brand is not a small brand. It's very well known amongst people. What would your advice be to other entrepreneurs to help them to attain this level of success?
So there was one thing that we did last year, and it's something that I never did in the, let's say, 5 of the 6 years that we had the business, and we never did paid marketing at all. We never did sponsored posts. I didn't know how to do it, so it's simply something that I never did. It's not a skill that I possess or wish to acquire, and because I don't want to dig into the back end of Facebook, that's something that we never did, nonetheless. So I started thinking that digital marketing, paid digital marketing, is something that I do want to do, but I have no clue how to do it. And I feel we all feel like we don't have the money to spend on an agency, and we don't have the money to pay for ads. So I approached it as an investment. And it was an investment project that we ran in 2021. Anyway, so I think there's 2 things. This was a big thing for us, to do the math and be like, okay, if you're going to charge me, let's call it 5K, and you're going to spend 10K, you need to make me 30K. That means I will have 15K in my pocket. So even if we are just turning product, it is at least paid for. And that was sort of the mentality that we took into going into paid advertising when we had to start with this, because it was new and foreign, and I felt like we don't have the budget, and agencies are extremely expensive. But at the time, when I started doing research for an agency that can assist us, I couldn't find anybody. That was hella expensive. I just couldn't see myself spending that kind of money. So I changed my mindset around it, and then I found an incredible agency they called Gen X, and I think they have largely attributed to the fact that I feel people see you everywhere, and I'm like, how do you mean you see me everywhere? We're on no shelves, but then my ads must be working. Anyway, so these 2 young lads, they are incredible. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they do it. They just tell me each month it works, and I'm like, okay, that's bad.
Cool.
Do it again. Like,
I'll pay you invoice.
Yes.
You're doing a great job.
And the other thing, and I think this is maybe the less popular answer to your question, Crystal, is consistency. You know, when we started 6 years ago, I didn't think, oh, I want a granola empire. I wanted the small artisanal bakery that sells 20 packets. But over time, as the business grew and as it changed, you know, we were consistent. And I think that's the hardest part to be, you know, when you start a business, to do the same thing over and over again every day, even when you don't feel like doing it. And again, for Simply Granola being such a personal brand, there were times where I didn't feel like showing up, and I probably didn't. And you feel that effect, you know, in your business. The minute you stop showing up on Instagram, yeah, we see a direct result in our sales. But consistency over time and a consistent dedication to what we've been doing, and to also be okay with small wins over time. I haven't really chatted about what's in the pipeline for this year, and we've got massive wins that's in the pipeline for this year. But I train with an amazing coach, and she often speaks about, you know, 1% wins. And more often than not, you know, you would want a 10% win or 100% win, and you will forfeit the 1% win because it's not big enough and it's not significant enough and it's not adding enough to your bottom. But over time, you know, those things adds up. So yeah, consistency, and I think being accepting of the season, the small wins and the big, yeah, it'll add up over time.
Amazing.
Awesome.
I like that you guys celebrate your small wins as well. It's so important. People forget how important it is.
Otherwise, you will be downright depressed.
Yes, and you'll stay down. Goodness,
Yeah.
no, you have to celebrate the small wins. On that note, we actually have a question coming through from one of the attendees.
Cool.
Do you find that your passion has changed after all the hurdles from start to today?
No, I think it has evolved. I think actually, if anything, our passion has gotten bigger. I've often thought, will my passion stay small? Will I keep it small? Will we grow it bigger? And there are days when it changes. But right now, I can honestly say that how the business has grown, and even despite the hurdles that we had, it actually inspires me and it ignites me to be, and I am probably at my most passionate for the last 2 years, in all 6 years, you know, yeah.
That is amazing. Your story is really, really inspiring. It inspires me, and I think it should inspire a lot of other people. I think starting in e-commerce and, you know, going after your passion and what you really love. Like, you think you need a guidebook and you think you need to have it all figured out. And I think your story kind of makes it, like, it takes it down to earth a little bit. You kind of go, okay, like, it's okay to not have it all figured out, and it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to celebrate the small wins and keep getting up and figuring out as you go. So I really, really love your story, and it's super, super inspiring.
I mean, something I've heard growing up is always you gotta get the ball rolling. You always gotta get the ball rolling, like fast pace. You always gotta get the ball rolling. And after hearing your story, I feel like I don't always have to get the ball rolling. Actually,
you can just
I
watch it
don't.
roll slowly.
I can watch it roll. 100%. It's my pace. It's no one else's pace. It's my pace. And I think in the world that we live in, everything is so fast paced, and your story really shows that it doesn't need to be. Your story is your story. Your adventure is your adventure. It doesn't need to be this fast-paced highway that you just don't want to get off. It doesn't need to be like that. And it can be a journey, and you can enjoy it day to day. And I think that's very valuable, especially for a lot of e-commerce people or people thinking of starting their own thing. It's nice to hear that we don't have to rush.
Yeah, and also remember, you know, your year 1 will not be the same as somebody else's year 10. And it's, I think, a pitfall that we all step in from time to time. You know, you look at, I remember like looking at my man, being to Lex like, oh, you know, how will I ever do this, or how will we ever get there? And she's like, dude, you just started. We've been in this for 10 years, you know, and that's an active reminder not to look at all the pretty stuff you see on Instagram and be despondent, you know, and think that we will never be there. We all will be there, wherever there is, you know, at some point in time. And you will be an inspiration to the girls 2 years behind you and 6 years behind you. And the people 5 years ahead of me, it still remains an inspiration, you know.
Well, you're an inspiration to us, and I really hope you write that book. I would definitely buy it.
It's going to be Simply Granola's book on your website. We'll see it. We'll see it
I'll think about it
soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nicola, for an absolutely incredible storytelling this evening. It has been an absolute honor to meet you and to chat to you and to hear your story. And yeah, thank you for sharing so much information with us. We really,
It's
will.
a pleasure. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And I think we'll definitely have to redo this sometime when I'm in Cape Town, and we'll meet up and we'll have another chat and a glass of wine.
Yes, definitely. Let me know.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Awesome. And
Cheers,
for all
guys.
our
And thanks
viewers,
for everybody joining. Yeah.
yeah, and for all our viewers that did tune in today, if you do want to rehash anything that Nicola shared with us today, this recording is, this webinar is recorded and will be made available to all of you for rehashing at a later stage. Awesome. Have an incredible evening. Thanks, guys.
Have an awesome evening, everyone. Thank you, Nicola, and have a good evening yourself.
Cool.
You too. Cheers, girls.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.